كيف حالكم everyone? Alhamdulillah. Is this good? Loud enough?
Yeah.
Did you take a test?
I got you both ways.
MashaAllah. Barakallah feekum. Somebody should help you. You should have to pick up your own chair. We got these strong guys over here. Okay. Right now we're going to jump right into it because with this lesson we will have completed 3 of the main usul that everybody has to know. Okay? 3 main usul before you study anything. So let's get this down. Let's hear it. Recite it. Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The competent adult, conscientious one, aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done, focus on conditions sahih to complete, avoiding every batil and invalidating feats.
It sounds like you're still like reading it, saying it. You shouldn't be reading it now. It should be second nature to you. Again, the criteria that we set for ourselves has to be high, has to be a high standard. You will always have to be double qualified, okay? As a Muslim and as a person of color, you're going to have to be double qualified as well. And if you're a white person, you're going to be, you have, what is it called? Prejudice against you because you're a traitor. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you have to, as a Muslim, be double qualified. How do you become double qualified? More than qualified. Practice. No one can stop you from practicing. Okay? You have to be ready before you have to perform. So let's do it again. The competent adult.
Conscientious one, aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done, focus on conditions sahih to complete, avoiding every batil and invalidating feat.
Every batil invalidating feat. Don't pause. Men, raise your voice. Avoiding every batil invalidating feat.
Avoiding every batil and invalidating feat.
The competent adult is the
Conscientious one, avoiding every ruling.
He is. The conscientious one is avoiding every conscientious one. Attention to what?
Details.
Details. Okay? Pay attention to details, guys. The competent adult is the conscientious one. We spoke about conscientious. Who's the most famous conscientious objector we've ever known? Muhammad Ali. And he showed his conscientiousness when he was asked to go fight people he had no problems with, by a people who he had problems with. So he showed that he was aware of what they were asking him to do. And his conscience would not allow him to do that. So here I'm asking you to remember Muhammad Ali, rahimahullah. When you think about the competent adult, is the conscientious one, aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done. Say it like you mean it. Start again.
The competent adult is the conscientious one, aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done.
On whatever he wants done.
Whatever he wants done.
Competent adult should be something that you're honored to say. The competent adult. I feel joy in wanting to be a competent adult. Is the conscientious one. Why? What does that mean? Aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done. This is a statement that you have to take honor and hold on to and live up to. And remember our brother Muhammad Ali. He was very conscientious, and we have to be as conscientious because he was fighting against those Westerners who were telling him to do something, those crusaders and those Ku Klux Klans people with their masks off, telling him to go fight someone. But Shaitan is coming up to us, whispering to us. And it's our own, it makes us think that it's our own conscience, right? That it's our own selves, and sometimes it is our desires. So we have to be conscientious about our own selves. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
So we have to be conscientious and conscious, sensitive about the ruling on whatever we want to do. Why is it want to do, not wanted to do?
Beforehand.
Don't stutter and don't whisper at me.
Knowledge before.
Knowledge before action. That's good. What else did you say?
I would say one is present, one is past.
Okay, we know one is present and one's there, but what's the difference? Why is it important here that we say whatever he wants done?
Intention. His intention.
Well, it's half a sentences, guys. We're the adult to speak full sentences.
Knowing how to get to the ends, to his goal.
Listen,
Knowing how to reach his goal.
the reason is it is your responsibility as a competent adult to know the consequence of your acts before you go about and do it. So he knows about the ruling, whatever he wants. So it shows a conscious thought about his action and the consequence of his action before he acts. This is the purpose of having it beforehand, once done. Does that make sense, everybody?
No.
Because sometimes we act and we're not thinking. And this is inhumane. It's not part of a human to be unthinking. By the very nature of him being human is to say that he is a thinking, a conscious individual. That's what, unless he's a savage. What's the difference between a human and a savage?
The savage is a person who acts without thinking.
No. What did you say? No, it's not one without knowledge. It's not one that acts without thinking. That's not. Thank you. A savage is compulsive. He's hungry, he eats. If there's no food, he gets mad because he's hungry. Kill somebody, something. He may even eat them. Anything to satisfy his hunger, his desire, whatever he wants. He doesn't think about the consequences because all he's thinking about his savage desire. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what's the difference between a human, a conscientious, a competent adult, and a savage? He's aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done. And that guides him. His aql, we said aql previously, is that thing that controls you. Because he thought it out and that stops him from doing something that does not make human sense. Is everybody following my line of thought?
Yes.
Okay. So now say it again, like you mean it.
The competent adult is the conscientious one, aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done.
Focus on conditions.
Sahihun to complete.
Sahihun to complete.
Sahihun to complete.
We have to stop saying words any way we want to. This is again another habit we've picked up from the colonizers, from the crusaders. Allah tells us in the Quran, يُحَرِّفُونَ كَلَامَ Allah. They change the pronunciation of the speech of Allah. Why do they change the pronunciation? What's the purpose of doing that?
Change its meaning, sir.
To hide its meaning. It doesn't change its meaning,
Hide it. No.
but it hides its meaning. And so then the person who is not paying attention may not notice the meaning of the word. Right? Like when they say in America, deficit spending. Deficit spending. What does that mean? Is there a word deficit? No, it's deficient. Right? What does that say, deficient spending? Marketer. Benoit. If you try to get some, you know money, he can't even talk, he's just deficient. That ain't in my vocabulary. You know?
Lack of funds.
Lack of funds.
Yes.
So how can I have deficit spending when I'm lacking the funds? You mean that we are pretending I got money?
Right.
You get my point?
Yes.
And you pretending because I might kill you if you remind me I ain't got no money. That's what your money's backed up by your military. You get my point? Don't complain. Got the Marines right here. Either we're going to pretend you got this money or we're going to just take over. Like they did with Panama. You can pretend like it's your canal or we can come and make it real for you. Right?
Yeah.
And you heard of Pete from Panama since. Right? So this is what we want to understand about our language. They changed the words, the meanings, to hide the meaning, to make you less conscious about what's going on. And if they do it to the speech of Allah, they'll definitely do it to you. Right? They'll definitely do it in their own language. They'll definitely do it in our languages. Right?
Right.
And this is why you see the changing and the disappearing of languages on the planet, the changing of borders, in order to hide even the history and the existence. So you don't think about it. You don't remember it. And now your history is what we say it is. Right? So now what's the purpose of that? To control you. And Islam is designed to let no one control you but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He has given you certain control, certain options. So Islam is the only thing that's going to free you and allow you to be a free thinking adult. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
And the only way you can be a free thinking adult is if you're aware of every ruling on.
Whatever he wants done.
Stop saying it so passively.
Whatever he wants done.
Whatever he has done.
Whatever He wants done.
Whatever he has done.
There has to be that type of commitment. The lack of commitment is what's sinking us. The competent adult is the
Conscientious one.
aware of every ruling on.
Whatever he wants done.
Focused on conditions. Stop. This is where his focus, this poem is to help you see where your mission statement, right? What are you supposed to be doing? Focused on what?
Conditions.
Sahihun.
Complete.
Why? See, you have to know what conditions you have that are sahih for you to complete in order for that thing to be done, that act to be complete in its proper way. Like, for example, the salah. If I don't fulfill all the conditions that are sahih to complete, is my salah going to be complete?
No.
No. And then the fear is that it's going to be unaccepted. Who wants a salah that's unaccepted? Raise your hand.
No.
Nobody.
Nobody.
One of my sheikhs, Sheikh Abdul Adim Bedawi, he gave a khutbah one Friday. I never forgotten it till right now. He said that when people die, he was narrating a hadith. He said when people die, they want nothing else but to come back to this world and pray 2 raka'ah. Not just 2 raka'ah. I don't think you just want to pray 2 raka'ah. They want to come back and pray and focus in those 2 raka'ah. And do 2 good 2 raka'ah. So that it could be what? Accepted. And then they'll die happily if they know they just had 2 complete raka'ah. Does that make sense? Why?
Yes.
Because at that time they realize that the benefit of accepted salah. And what stopped them from doing 2 raka'ah in the dunya?
Lack of focus and a lack of commitment.
Give me a full
A
sentence.
lack of focus, also and a lack of commitment.
That's not a full sentence. A lack of focus and a lack of commitment. What?
Oh, a lack of focus and a lack of commitment stop them from focusing.
A lack of what?
Commitment,
A lack of commitment
focus,
and focus prevented them from what?
from
Performing.
performing.
Performing 2 raka'ah and paying attention from beginning to end. Just 2 raka'ah. And I thought about that. I said, is that serious? And then you try. You try in the dunya to pray 2 raka'ah. Turn off your phones, guys. Please. You try in the dunya to pray 2 raka'ah, and what happens? Khinzib comes. Who's Khinzib?
Shaikh.
Khinzib is one type of shaitan. His name is Khinzib. What's his job? He comes to the salah and he whispers to you. And he says all types of things, anything, even good things. Did you pay zakah yet? You're like, man, I wasn't even thinking about that, right? Oh, you remember 25 years ago when such and such? Oh, remember that lecture? That was a really good lecture. You're like, man, it was a good. Next thing you know, just anything to distract you. He'll go so far to be obscene and smack you on your butt. That's what he does. Why does he do that? To make you think you pass gas. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that. And he said, so don't go if you think you went, unless you do what? Hear it or smell it. All that's coming from khinzib. We have to know the reality of our situation so we can focus. Should we be mad at this shaitan? We just have to focus. It's his job to do that. He's been given an order. Okay? Try to distract this slave. And we've been given an order. What's that?
To focus.
What is our order is to focus and ignore him.
Yes.
Right? To focus, and if he gets too hard, what are you supposed to do?
We're supposed to seek refuge in Allah from the shaitan.
And spit to your left, right? And not like a whole luga, on the next person next to you. But a spit with no saliva. Okay? So we're told what we're supposed to do, right? So we have to be focused on conditions sahihun to
Complete.
avoiding every.
Invalidate.
Don't pause. Do not pause. I don't even want you to breathe. This word goes together. Batilun, invalidating feet. Say it.
Batilun, invalidating feet.
Batilun, invalidating feet.
Batilun, invalidating feet.
You might even call it invalidating feet. Because you want to put it like batilun, invalidating feet.
Batilun, invalidating feet.
It goes together. This is a type of phrase that helps you understand the meaning. They're directly tied together. Batilun, invalidating feet. So it teaches you what? What is batilun?
Invalidating feet.
Automatically it comes in your mind. Every batil is not haram. It may not be haram. It might be haram, but it may not be haram. But it's something that is not sahihun to complete. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's of different varying ways. For example, I stated earlier that if you're going to make wudu, and let's say there's some oil in the pot. Let's say you ask your children to wash the dishes, right? And they washed one of those silver bowls that you normally cook pancakes in, okay? So there's some oil left in the bowl sometimes, right? And let's say they didn't do a good job, so there's still that oil. So as soon as the water went in here, what happens to the oil? It floated up and it's in the water. So when you put your hands in the water to wash it, to make wudu, you notice the water's texture had changed. And it's oily. When you went to sniff it and taste it, you tasted the oil. Can you make water with that? Can you make wudu with that water? No. It is now no longer pure and purifying. You can drink it, okay? But you can't, because it's not najis, it's not filthy water, but it's no longer pure and purifying. Pure water, okay? Now, that is a batilun, invalidating for wudu, right? Now let's do another thing. Let's say someone gifted you a gold. One of your kafir relatives gave you a gold bowl, okay? They went and said, man, you know what? I got to buy a gold bowl. And they got a gold bowl and they gave it to you. It's pure gold, like they use in the laboratories. They use a lot of gold, right? And they gave it to you as a gift. And you couldn't find anything else to make wudu, so you poured water in that thing and you made wudu. Okay? Are we supposed to use gold utensils?
No.
Is it lawful for us to use gold utensils? You guys are hesitating. If you don't know, say no. I'm saying I don't know. If you do know, say yes. It's easy to say, okay, you don't know. Well, then say what you say. I don't know. It's half of knowledge is saying I don't know. Okay? But you have to answer. The answers are 3. Yes, no, I don't know. Can you use a gold bowl as a Muslim? No. Muslims are not supposed to use gold utensils. Okay? Even though women can wear gold, men are not supposed to wear it, and either the men and the women, we're not supposed to use it. Okay? We're not supposed to eat off of them and these types of things. Okay? Now, even though you use this gold bowl to put water in and make wudu, does it invalidate the wudu? No. You get my point? It's not. There's certain levels of things that invalidate the deed. You get my point?
Yes.
Using the wrong type of bowl doesn't change the flavor of the water, the taste of the water. that is used in that bowl. So you did something that is considered makruh at that case. You get my point? The least of legal things to do. We say, no, you shouldn't have done that. But it doesn't invalidate the wudu. Everybody follow me?
Yes.
So you have to know these things. Because these are the things that make you better than a child. Because a child doesn't know things. He's not a competent adult. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what's the difference between a child and an adult?
Competence.
Oh, don't give me the same word. Don't give me the definition with the same word. No. What's the difference, guys? Think about it. You don't need to be an Islamic scholar to know the difference between a competent adult and an incompetent adult, a competent adult and a child.
The child is not conscientious.
The child is not conscientious, meaning he's not aware of the consequences of certain actions. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay then. So we have to know that there's certain standard of things that we're supposed to know as adults. Right? Who makes the determination of which those things are? Allah. The one who made you responsible and accountable is the one that's able to say you need to know this, that, and the other thing. There are 38 chapters or sections of fiqh that you have to be competent in. Does that mean you have to be a scholar in all those 38 things? No. But you have to be aware and competent as an adult what those things are as based on your responsibilities in life. And what those things are so that you know there's a question there. So that you can know, hold it, this is an issue in fiqh. I know that much. This is an issue I need to go ask somebody who knows about this particular thing. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Because knowing what you don't know is just as important or even more important than knowing what you know. Because you know what you know, you don't got to think about it. But you got to be aware of the things that you do not know. And then you have to be adult enough, have enough honor, bravery to say, I don't know. When you get in front of something you don't know. Or don't say, well, I don't know, so I'm just going to go ahead. May not work sometimes in that way. Some things you're allowed to do, and some things you're not allowed to do in that regard. Okay, let's read it again. Recite.
The competent adult is the conscientious one, aware of every ruling on whatever he wants done, focused on conditions sahih to complete, avoiding every batil and invalidating fee.
Okay, so that's our review for today. These are the things that you need to, we reviewed this right now. These are the 5 legal rulings plus 2. This is the plus 2. Now, excuse me?
There's only 4.
No, there's only 2. Sahihun and batilun. This is the statement. This is a statement to get you thinking. This is the hors d'oeuvre. Okay? So we started off with this statement and then we followed up with the plus 2. Where's the 5? He says. Right here. Yes.
May I ask you a question before you change? I want to get straight to the gold bowl. You said it's okay to. It's not okay to make them do it. Is it okay to make them do it?
It is not okay for Muslims to use gold utensils, period.
Eat out.
It is not proper for a Muslim to use gold utensils, period.
Or silver.
Or silver, thank you. Gold or silver utensils, period. Period. Remember Al-Baqarah? What do we remember when we think about the Tafseer of Al-Baqarah? What is that all about?
Asking.
You know, what's the tadabbur? What's the meaning? Okay, we're told not to be asking too many questions about something. When you get a ruling, take it. Accept it and move on. Because once you start getting, well, what about this? Well, what about that? That's what the Jews did, and this is what we're told not to do. Okay, and I'm not trying to beat you up, Queen Nzinga. I'm just saying that we need to learn from our mistakes because we do this often. We'll ask a question and then we'll debate the question. No. If you ask a question, can I understand what the ruling is? If you get, okay, let's say, what's the ruling on me walking down the street? It is lawful for you. It is mubah. What if I'm wearing sneakers? Come on now. Okay? It's lawful for you to walk down the street. Leave it alone. wear sneakers, wear this, that, and the other thing. Now, if something happens, and hold on, you walk down the street and you're wearing stilettos, let's say that, and someone says, "Hey man, you can't do that." Now you have another question. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But let's try not to, get too much into it. The more that's left open, the more you have opportunity to do. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
You keep it real suave. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Does that make sense, right? Suave? What is it? Like laid back. Keep it open. Okay? And don't close it and make it tight. By getting, well, what about this detail and that detail and this and that? Well, I'm just trying to understand. That's the same thing the Jews said, right? Isn't that the exact same thing?
Same thing with the buckle.
We just want to be guided, and we were told, don't be that way. So leave it open. Okay? Because the right is clear. And the falsehood and harm is clear. In between, there's a lot of different issues that most people do not understand. So what we're told to do is incline away from wrong, try our level best to do what's right. And if we do that, in most cases, we'll be correct. How can we guarantee that? By reading more Quran, by reading more Hadith, by being around the truth more, we're inclined to pick up and be more truthful. And so it's very careful what we include in our lives. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, do not write. I do not want you to write. I want you to pay attention to what I'm going to say now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the lesson that we're doing today. That's what we did previously, was the introduction. Now, I'm going to go through this, and then after I start talking after that, then I allow you to write down, but I need you to pay attention. Okay? From the adab of the students and the teachers is some teachers would not allow students to write. Some of the scholars, Ibrahim al-Nakhai is a famous scholar. He lived in the time of the Prophet but did not accept Islam until after the death of the Prophet, so he's not a Sahabi. But even the Sahaba studied from him and learned from him. He was world famous. Well, now he's world famous, but he was known at that time. If you looked like you was going to write, he would pick his shoes up and leave because you're not paying attention. He was severe like that, okay? And the reason why they say he was like that because he said he was busy. He got no time for no nonsense. So if you're not paying attention, you would leave. But Imam Malik would come out, rahimahumullah. If he saw one person didn't have a pen and paper, he'd leave. Y'all don't want no lesson. Because you knew I don't accept this person not to have a paper. Y'all didn't give him no paper before I came out. I'm leaving for the day. That's your lesson. Don't let me come out here, Imam Malik, and everybody don't have something. Except one person he would allow to do that. Who was that? Shaikh. When Shaikh was in his class as a young boy, about maybe 10 years old, Shaikh didn't have no paper or nothing. Imam Malik would let him go. Let him alone. He wouldn't say nothing. So sometimes, one time, Imam Shaikh, he's a young boy sitting there, and they tell him, look, man, you better have your papers. I got my papers right here. It's my pen. And then Imam Malik started talking. He's writing in the air. And they said, look at this kid. But they're thinking he's just a kid. He's just a young guy. Whatever. Then after the lesson, they said, man, you did all that writing. Do you remember what he said when he said X, Y, Z? They're thinking they're going to catch him. He said, hold on 1 second. He's in there. He said, and he starts quoting. A guy sitting by said, hold on, I missed that part. And they started to write down what he said because he picked up the quote and kept going. Imam Shafi had that type of focus. Okay? No, baby. So, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, that was what Imam Malik recognized about Imam Shafi. He wasn't an imam yet, he was still a student, but he recognized him in that regard, and he left him alone. The only person he would leave alone in that regard. So we have to pay attention in our classes, because unless you're like Imam Shafi, then fadl, we want you here for that. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now, this poem, it begins, with obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply. Say that, please.
With obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply.
With obligations wajib, meaning it's the same thing. Obligations means what?
Wajib.
Obligatory is the word, right? So that coincides with wajib. So what do we do with obligations wajib? The attempt is to
comply.
So we understand that when something is wajib, we have to make a real attempt to do what?
Comply.
Why did I say make attempt to apply? The attempt is to comply. Can you fulfill everything that's wajib?
No.
You may not be able to. It may not be humanly possible for you to do that, physically, financially, socially possible for you to do some things. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man yara minkumul munkar falyughayyirhu biyadihi." Whoever amongst you sees anything wrong, anything that's not supposed to be munkar, unseemly, something that you don't recognize from the Sharia, that's what it means. Nakira, like a verb, an ismun, it would be, let's say, kursiyun, a chair. That's nakira, indefinite, unknown, as opposed to al-kursi, the definite thing, right? So if you see something munkar, you don't recognize it. It's unknown from what you know of the ma'ruf, the well-known sharia. Okay? What is easily recognizable as good. Man yara minkum al-munkar falyughayyirhu biyadihi. Let him change it with his hands. Can we always do that?
No.
And if he's unable to, then what should he do? Speak out. Can we always do that?
No.
You speak out, sometimes it's worse than changing it with your hand. Especially in societies where fascist societies like the ones we live in today. Right? You speak out, next thing you know, you're disappeared, you're sick, you got hit in a car accident. You're on scandal in the news, and people who know that this is scandal believe it. Right? They'll tell you in a minute, oh, I don't believe anything the government saying. Oh man, we got papers from the government saying this guy is this, that, and the other thing. That's oxymoronic, right? But people don't think like that. The crowd is fickle. So whoever speaks out of it and it's dangerous for him, what should he do next? Then he is forced to hate it in his heart, and that is the weakest of iman. If he does not hate it in his heart, what does that make them? That means the iman has gone. Okay? Now, we don't rule that, but Allah knows. And maybe that individual, if he's conscious enough, knows. And that's very important, because sometimes we see things that are wrong and we like it. Right? So we have to be careful that our job is to hate that thing at the very least. How would you like it if your mama was somebody disliked your mother, and then you said, well, I'm going to go hang out with them anyway? That don't make no sense, does it? No. Why? Why wouldn't you hang out with someone who cursed at your mother or called your mother outside her name?
Disrespect.
Disrespectful to who?
To me and my mother.
How does it disrespect your mother?
We called her other name.
Well, you didn't.
No, but I heard him.
So?
Like, hey, it ain't gonna happen.
What's the term? What's the term that how does your action disrespect your mother? What's it called? The lack of loyalty. You get my point? The lack of fidelity to your mother, that you would associate and be with somebody who's calling your mother anything but a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, who do you owe more allegiance than that? Allah. You gonna hang out with somebody who calls you Allah something else? You get my point, guys?
Yes.
We don't say, oh no, but it's different. How? How is it different? Oh, or is it the fact that we don't realize the amount of allegiance is due to Allah over our mother? I'm using the mother because after Allah, that's the one we should have the most allegiance to in the physical world. We can see that. But Allah is even more so than that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, with obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply.
With obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply.
Now this teaches us a rule. Obligation drops with inability. Write that down. This is a rule. Obligation drops with inability. Say it, guys.
Obligation drops with inability.
Okay. So a wajib thing will drop with your inability to do it. Say it again.
Obligation drops with inability.
Okay. هنا اسكتي انت. أجل. إذن. With obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply.
With obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply.
Refusals unacceptable and punishments apply.
Refusal is unacceptable and the punishment is applied.
So with the wajib, refusal is what?
Unacceptable.
By who? By Allah. So the rule with a wajib is that refusal is
Unacceptable.
You have to understand it. You have to stop writing. No cheating. Even though they say if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But I need you to pay attention. I want you to absorb it first and then write it down, because then you get 2 tracks to your memory. Okay, but if you write and listen at the same time, you miss. There's skips. It's a form of learning. You'll learn it better if you do it this way. It's, again, the recipe. There's some sense to it. Okay? So now, refusals unacceptable and punishments applied.
Refusal is unacceptable and punishments applied.
For the wajib. Okay? Now it says that for both haram and wajib too.
From both haram and wajib too.
From 2 reversing points of view.
From 2 reversing points of view.
I saw some eyebrows go, what does that mean? That refusals unacceptable and punishments apply for the haram and the wajib. How? From 2 reversing points of view. Everybody follow that?
Yes.
For in the wajib, a wajib by definition, you did the homework. What is a wajib?
Obligatory.
No, don't give me just that one word stuff. Give me the definition. What is wajib? I'll tell you. Wajib is a command from Allah, either by way of Quran or by His messenger. That's right? Yeah. Why did I say by His messenger? And why did I say why the messenger said? No, because there's Muhammadillah Rasul. Muhammad is nothing but a messenger. Man ata'a al-Rasul kada ata'a Allah. Whoever obeys the messenger has obeyed Allah. La yantiqu anil hawa. He doesn't speak of his own desire. So it's an order from Allah in the Quran or from His messenger. It's all in order from Allah. You ain't rejecting the messenger of Allah, nothing. Allah tells them, if they ain't against you, but it's against Allah that they are kafirun. Okay? So it's not the messenger. People get it wrong. He is just a messenger. If you send your child to tell your other children, I want you to go into the room and do X, Y, Z, and they refuse, why are you going to whip them? Because they didn't listen to their brother and sister?
No.
Because they didn't listen to you. You guys get my point?
Yes.
Nah.
إنهم لا يكذبونك
إنهم لا يكذبونك ولكنهم بآيات الله كافرون. But however, they're not calling you a liar, Ya Rasulullah. They're not rejecting you. But they are, with regard to the ayat of Allah, kafirun. They are rejecting and becoming kafirs of the ayat of Allah. This is all proof that what I just stated, that it's a statement, for an order from Allah, either directly from the Quran or directly from His messenger. And that's where the rejection comes in. Okay? I'm sorry, the order. So wajib is what Allah has told you to do, either by Himself in the Quran or through His messenger. And refusals unacceptable and punishments apply if you don't do it. And you are capable. Okay, because with obligations, wajib, the attempt is to
comply.
So if you didn't make the attempt to comply, your refusal is unacceptable and punishments may apply. They apply, does that mean He's going to do it exactly? No, it may when they say punishments apply, you might get some of this punishment. But Allah may forgive. Now from the haram, it's an order from Allah not to do something. Either directly from the Quran or from His messenger. But it's an order from Allah not to do something. And refusal is unacceptable, and if you do it anyway, and you're not forced. Okay? And you're not forced to do. And I told you the story of the woman who was hungry and starving and thirsty, and she was forced, and the man said, I won't give you nothing unless I have my way with you. And so she did that, and Umar didn't punish her at all. And Ali was the judge. 2 major Sahabi. This is nothing, some hidden hadith you find in Kazi publications or something like that. No, this is a normal, well-known statement. Okay? So, here, for both haram and wajib, 2 from 2 reversing
points of view.
So one is from the obligation to do and the other is from the obligation not to do. Okay, but at the end of the day, the same thing. Refusal is unacceptable for both the haram and wajib too. Does everybody follow me?
Yes.
Now these are the legal rulings of acts. We start off with the most severe. But highly recommended, extreme encouragement. Say it.
Highly recommended.
No, say it like the. But highly recommended, extreme. See, this is tafdeal. This is exact. كيف نقول يعني تفضيل الكلام. You know, huh? Emphasize. Yeah, this language is highly extreme. So you have to say it in that way. But highly recommended, extreme encouragements are mustahab suggestions without the punishment.
A mustahab suggestions without the punishment.
I don't want no mumbling. Say it again.
Are mustahab suggestions without the punishment.
Put emphasis on this ba. A mustahab. The hat, when you see a capital in the English, when we're writing an Arabic word, a capital H is the no-hole ha. It's a ha. It's like the ha of jalapeno. Okay? It's a hard ha. It's right at the top of your throat, where your throat meets the top of the throat, like the throat is a well. There's a difference between a throat being the well and the mouth at the top. The back of the mouth is not the throat. It's over the throat. Okay? So the ha is at the edge of that well. Ha. And it shoots the air into the mouth. Ha. It's like you're clearing the back of your throat. Ha. Mustahab.
Mustahab.
That ba, make it 3 bas for the English, because it needs that emphasis. Are mustahab suggestions without the punishments.
A mustahab suggestions without the punishments.
Are mustahab suggestions without the punishments.
Are mustahab suggestions without the punishment.
Okay, so this is, but highly recommended, extreme encouragements are mustahab suggestions without the punishments. Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful
Things to do.
Their opposites are called, the opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful
Things to do.
So the opposites of mustahab are called what?
Makruh.
So it's the opposite. So it's highly, what?
Recommended.
No, it's the opposite. Discouraged. Okay? Extreme, this will be extreme discouragement. What's the opposite of recommended? Well, discouraged would be right here. Discouragements. I want another one for recommended. Come on, guys, the Taurus, think. Not disliked. I was hoping someone would say that. Because sometimes we use the word makruh for it is disliked. Sorry? Frowned upon, disliked is the same thing to me. Very light. Allah tells us and gives us an example about what the word kariha means. لَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. What does that mean? You would have. But what is it talked about? Allah used the word kariha for what act?
Eating the flesh of your brother.
Allah uses, give me a full sentencing, man.
Allah uses the word karihat for eating the flesh of your brothers.
So eating the flesh of your brother is just frowned upon? What are you, a Neanderthal? I'm teasing. Right? To eat your brother's flesh. Allah uses it like in the physical, to eat your brother's dead flesh. You just say, that's what? Disgusting. That's what kariha is. That's what makruh is. It's not something, it's just disliked. Because when we use it in that terminology, it means very light. Does that highly and extreme mean very light, or the opposite of very light? You get my point?
Yes.
We don't need to use the word dislike. Understand the context Allah used the word. That you would feel something makruh, what that something he described, eating the dead flesh of your brother, whatever thought comes to your mind with that, that's what makruh is. Disgusting is what comes to mind as well with me. Repulsive. Horrible. But something that people have done when they're forced to. That's what they said. So that's why we call it, their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful
things to do.
Say it again.
Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do.
Again.
The opposite.
No, not the opposites. Their opposites. Ooh, the opposite of what? Mustahab suggestions without the punishments. Okay? So, their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do. Say it.
Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do.
Again.
Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do.
Again.
Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do.
Vital and important to understand this last line. The least of lawful things to do. That's the bottom line. You're on the bottom line of lawful things to do. The person who has to do something that is makruh. And if we would just understand this, it would help us because it would work on our conscience. You get my point? When someone says, well, what's the ruling on that? Okay, to themselves, what's the ruling on what I'm doing right now? And they think about it. Is it wajib? Did Allah command me to do this? Or tell me this? Or command me not to do it? Okay? Or is it mustahab? I'm highly recommended, extreme encouragement for me to do this particular act. Okay, like eat with my right hand, or sit down and eat, or put on my shoes, right? These types of things. Mustahab. Without the punishments. What does it mean without the punishments? Ahmed. There are no negative consequences from Allah Himself. It's like a punishment, right? There's none of that for not doing the mustahab or doing the makruh. But is there some other type of consequence?
Yes.
What consequence? Ahmed.
There are worldly consequences.
There are worldly consequences that come with doing the mustahab and doing the makruh. Okay? Because the mustahab is something that Allah has commanded us to do. It is a command. But compliance has not been demanded. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And no punishments apply if you don't do it. Likewise, the makruh is a command not to do something. But compliance is not demanded and no punishments apply. However, you open yourself up to the reason why Allah told you to do it or not to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because these things are to protect you from something, to add barakah to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you lose that barakah if it's a mustahab and you didn't do it, that protection. Or you open yourself up to the harm, to the disgusting effects of the makruh. Does everybody follow me? Yes. The disgusting effect, that's why we should keep the term. Disgusting effects of makruh activity. Maybe on your body. I made the mention before, somebody may think, what's the big deal of standing up and putting on my shoes? Right? Because we don't understand it. But then someone gets back pain after 10 years or 20 years of doing that, because constantly bending over like that pinches that nerve. You get in those little bitty nerves in that back. The body wasn't made to do it that way, right? And they wonder where this pain come from. The doctor says, well, you pinched your nerve. It's been that way for 15 years. Oh, I must have twisted. You start looking at what you did. Oh, I played football last week. No. You set yourself up that by constantly doing something that was makruh. As opposed to, you thought it was a small deal. You didn't realize it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you not to do it. For what the wisdom that Allah has. وَحِكْمَتُهُ بَالِغَةٌ. And His wisdom goes all the way and covers every aspect of life. Does that make sense? Yes. So we have to respect Allah, because that's what this means here. When you understand the ruling on everything He wants to do, understand the ruling is by degrees. One of them is what is the ruling, without any wisdom behind the ruling, right? Just, I don't know why He said to do, but He said to do it. What do? Atawakkal ala Allah. I throw and put my whole trust to Allah that by doing this, I'm doing the right thing. When Allah says, jump in the fire, then we jump in the fire. Bismillah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we have to think like that. Now they're going to call us fanatical. You're a fanatic if you do that. But I can be half of that if it's a sports player, a fan. Right? If I imitate a fan and do everything, they can make exceptions for that because I'm only get half the word. Okay, but if it's for a prophet, then your whole word, you're a fanatic. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. The last one. Well, acts mubah get no attention.
While acts mubah get no attention.
Till their actors make intention.
Till their actors make intention.
Well, you put emphasis on there. Till their actors make intention.
Till their actors make intention.
So we start off and we say, but highly recommended, extreme encouragements
My highly recommended extreme encouragements
are mustahab suggestions without the punishments.
are mustahab suggestions without the punishments.
Their opposites are called makruh,
Their opposites are called makruh,
the least of lawful things to do.
the least of lawful things to do,
While acts mubah get no attention
while acts mubah get no attention
till their actors make intention.
till their actors make intention.
What does that mean? Mubah. It's an act that gets what?
No attention.
No attention. If we eat chicken or fish, who cares? Anybody pay attention to that? Only thing we care about is it halal, right? Is it the biha, right? Is what we look forward to see. Where's where'd this come from? And then we don't pay attention. Can I eat rice or bulgur, right? Or the what's the other rice? The brown rice or white rice or black rice or whatever you want to eat, right? Whatever's good for you. I personally don't like the long grain rice no more, you know. But the point is, it's up to taste, isn't it? What you want to do until you make an intention with that act. Now, if you're eating rice and your intention with eating that rice is so that you can get up at nighttime and pray, then that becomes a mustahab act. If you're eating that rice so you can get up and go party and go to the club, then that becomes haram rice. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
If I'm walking, what's the ruling on walking? It's mubah, it gets no attention. Till I make an intention with that walk, where I'm going. Then my walking carries the ruling of wherever I'm going, wherever I intended to end up. Not in what do we say? Intentions will decide
The rulings of an act.
There it goes right there. Because most of the acts are mubah. هو الذي خلق لكم.
ما في الأرض جميعا.
There you go. ما في الأرض جميعا. Allah says in the Quran, He is the one who created for you all everything. Ma fil ard. Ma meaning everything in the earth, all of it all together. What does that mean if it's for you? What does that mean? No, doesn't mean that you're going to get it. If I say it's yours, you already got it. What does it mean though? Sorry? Part of that means you're responsible for it. What is else?
Utilize it, enjoy it.
I can utilize and enjoy it any way I like. That's what it means. If I give you something, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it within the perimeters of what is halal and haram. If you are given $1 million, can you burn it?
Yes.
No.
No.
You cannot burn it. Because inna Allah la yuhibbul musrafin. Israf. Waste. You can't destroy it. But within the perimeters of what you're allowed to do, you can spend it. You can do what you like with it. Does that make sense? That's halal. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
So when we say that most of the acts fall under mubah, it's because Allah said everything on the earth is lawful for you to do. Can you wear green?
Yes.
Who told you? Do you need a proof? What's your proof I can wear green? Do I need proof?
No.
I don't need proof to wear green. I need proof that I can't wear green. Because the asl, the origin, is that everything on the earth is lawful. Okay? Unless you have proof that is, that's right. And unless we have proof.
It has to be
Come on,
denied.
stop talking to me like a child. Man, yell at me.
Unless we have
Proof that it has to be
That's
denied.
yelling, guys. Come on, guys, go.
And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then the people's practice can always be
Do you
applied.
see how we're using the usul now? We go back. That's why we learn them in that particular order. Okay? And while acts mubah get
No intention.
till their actors,
Make intention.
and unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then the people's practice,
Can always be applied.
and that's what makes the difference here. Hold on now. Not all acts. Alhamdulillah. So now you can start writing this, okay? Now you can start writing it, and I want to give you less time to write it so you can be rushing to do it. No, seriously. So you can pay attention. I'll read it while you write. With obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply. Refusals unacceptable and punishments apply. For both haram and wajib too, from two reversing points of view. But highly recommended, extreme encouragements are mustahab suggestions without the punishments. Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do. While acts mubah get no attention till their actors make intention. With obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply. Refusals unacceptable and punishments apply. For both haram and wajib too, from two reversing points of view. But highly recommended, extreme encouragements are mustahab suggestions without the punishments. Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do. While acts mubah get no attention till their actors make intention. Intentions will
Decide the rulings of an act.
Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal only unravels with
A positive effect.
haram only is
Harmful, the opposite of good.
corruptive.
Destructive is never understood.
So the hardships and harms
Have to be
no,
removed.
not have to be removed. Have to be removed. Come on. So the hardships and harms
Have to be removed. Relieved of or eased up in some way soothed.
Doubt does not
count because it is not pure.
so it cannot remove.
What we know for sure.
And unless we have proof
that it has to be denied.
that a people's practice
Can always be applied.
Come on, you say it with meaning, it'll mean something to you. If you don't say it with meaning, it won't mean anything to you. You're training your body with your voice. Because when you make your voice away, the whole body's passion gets into that voice. Does that make sense? And it's memory. Even your feelings are based on your memory of that thing. With obligations wajib, the attempt is to comply. Refusals unacceptable and punishments apply. For both haram and wajib too, from two reversing points of view. But highly recommended, extreme encouragements are mustahab suggestions without the punishments. Their opposites are called makruh, the least of lawful things to do. While acts mubah get no attention till their actors
Make intention.
make intention. I expect you to know this. Next week we are testing. We're testing on all three poems. The poems of the Maqasid al-Sharia. The poems of the... Hold on.
Five principles. Five primary principles.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
You've been given the duty.
I will say the five primary principles of fiqh, or the primary principles of fiqh, right?
Yeah.
And then the last poem is the 5 legal rulings plus 2. Those 3 poems, you have to know them by heart. You have to recite them with passion. You have to be able to explain them. These are just the basic principles that we will have to know in order to understand the entire Sharia. And in fact, our whole life. You know, Allah is beautiful in simplicity. So many different things. You know, there's only 2 types of benefit that you get from speech. Just 2. And we have all this conversation based on 2 mufid. You know, it's a lafdun murakkabun mufidun bil wad'. We say, right? In al-kalam عندنا فلتستمع لفظ مركب مفيد قد وضع. We say al-mufid here is that the listener means kalam عندنا and the ahl al-nuhat is lafdun, a sound that comes off your tongue. Humans are the only ones that use their tongue. According to the European scientists, the thumb is what makes us the difference from animals, but that don't work because animals have thumbs. But no creature speaks from his tongue. Not a parrot, not a parakeet, they speak from their throat. Only the human uses his tongue. Lafdun. Murakkabun, a sound that's compounded, 2 sounds or more, right? Mufid, beneficial, meaning the listener's not waiting for more to understand the objective of the speech. So if I say, if Ben Wali comes, you see everybody looked up, what? What if Ben Wali comes, what? We gonna buy something. Okay? Get my point? Now it's mufid, you're listening. But mufid means there's 2 types of benefits. Either you're giving what we call insha'u. Insha'u means you're giving a question or a command. Right? It doesn't have to be truthful or anything. A question or command. Does that point to truth or false? No. Sit up, stand up, may I have? No, yes or no. There's no, truth or falsehood in there. And a khabar, information, the passing of information. The passing of information is something that can be true or false. Period. There's no other benefit in speech. With just these two mufid, insha'u wal khabar, we make all this conversation. Right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. That to me is one of the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have all this conversation with just a khabar wal insha. Think about it. Is there any other type of speech? Don't even worry about the terms. Because it's an extra thing here. But the term is, the idea is this. Questions and commands is one. And passing information. This balagha. When passing information, it can be true or false. That's when you determine if it's a khabar. Any statement that can be determined true or false. Whereas insha'u is anything that you say that cannot be determined whether it's true or false. Well, if you can't determine if it's true or false, then it can only be two things. A question or a command. Now you think about it and try to find something that's not a question or command that can't be termed as true or false. My point with this, there's a number of points to get you used to the language because we're going to make everybody fluent here, inshallah. If you stay in the class. In less time than you think, inshallah. What they say, got to empty the glass, right? Why did they say you have to empty the glass? Ahmed, why did they have to empty the glass?
To fill it with what's beneficial.
To fill it with something else than what you already have. Right? Because if you already have something in there, there's no room for anybody to put in there, for the teacher to do. You get my point? Or it's going to waste, right? So you have to yourself empty it. Meaning, be willing to let me fill it. That's what it means by empty the glass. If you refuse, because you have your preconceived already opinions, or ideas and knowledge, then when I try to fill it, you're going to fight. You're going to resist. Okay? Because it goes against what you already have. But if you're willing to say, you know what, let me put this to the side and come open to let this one fill, then we'll be able to use that other stuff. Okay? Inshallah. Yes, ma'am?
I said we have no way to put that information.
Right, we'll be able to put it in, because a lot of us, with regards to like Arabic and with Islamic studies, most of us are self-taught. Okay? Especially in the lands of the kuffar, where we are convert or traveled over here to live in an un-Islamic land. So the nature of it, the environment is anti-Islamic, just by the nature of it. So you forget a lot of things that are there in an Islamic land, even if it's what you call the worst Islamic land. There are certain things that are natural and traditional that have been there since the beginning of Islam. But they're not here. Okay? Because this is a different original environment. Okay? So we pick up things and everything like that. And we pick up things, what we think we have, whatever is there, not realizing that some of these things have been laid out as traps for us. Okay? By the kuffar. The kuffar have a statement that they said if you can't beat them, join. Do you understand how that's applied as a tactic? No, seriously.
As infiltrate.
Infiltrate. That's one way. Another way is to present something as true and then to oppose that same thing.
From the inside.
No. Let me show you. We talk about COINTELPRO a lot in the African community, right? The counterintelligence program. But we fail to acknowledge that it still exists. Today there's a group that's called PAG. We should be called PIG. But PAG is a political activist group. That's a section of the CIA. What is their job? It says it right there. We called them skunks back in the days. Skunks they make us think about something to distract you from something else. Okay? Like, remember when Obama was the president and they were having that walk on Wall Street in the different places around the country? And then how did they break it? they stopped the basketball when the guys were on strike on the basketball, right? They saw the basketball thing. They put on the front cover. Obama's on at a basketball game with his wife at his brother-in-law's basketball thing. But the same day they put all that on TV and all the thing, they went around with the police and beat up everybody that was at those stop Wall Street places. So they distracted you, the whole Houdini. You get my point? So you're not even thinking about that because the games is on now. We satisfied your rage.
Entertainment.
Okay, so the sheeple, right? But how does that happen in Islam? That concept of if you can't beat them, join them. We can't beat Islam. So we're going to pretend we're not trying to beat Islam. Okay? We're going to get someone to present some information as though it's Islamic. This is the Islamic stance. And then we're not going to tell them it came from us. And then we're going to oppose it. No, we don't want you to pick that up. So what are we going to think? Oh, this must be the truth since they don't want to hear it. You get my point? And then hold on to it with dear life. Still not thinking about what it says. What are the ramifications? Okay, because we've been trained to zone. And so what I'm asking you to do is to stop doing that. Think for yourself. What are the ramifications of everything that you're seeing? Start questioning your own mind, what you see, what does this mean? And how does this play out in the life of a human being as a Muslim in wherever you're at? You will find that there are some things that are pretty strange that you might be believing that are not from Islam. And I mean, that's the bottom line. So we'll go through that. Once you get these principles, no one can steal from you. That's the beauty of Islam. This is why they can't beat it, they have to join it, meaning mess it up from the inside. Because even if you know what the plan of the Muslims is, you can't stop it when we do the plan of Allah. And that's what the kuffar hate. When you stick to Islam, they might know exactly what you're going to do. Which is, clean your life up. Right? Go make Hajj and Umrah. Practice Islam. Have healthy families. Stop doing the haram things. Why do they want to stop you from doing the haram things? Money. Period. Clubs get money. Alcohol gets money. The effects of those get people in jail. Money. People go to psychologists. Crime. Money. Drugs. All this time they're talking about people getting killed in our black community. Who is selling them the guns? Seriously. If we can go find Saddam Hussein on a hole over there, you can't tell me where this guy got this gun from? I know in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, the cops were selling the guns. They were the ones that were selling the guns in their precinct. And they would tell you, look, man, I work here, don't worry about it, we got an hour. Pop their trunk and sell all day. But if you trace that gun, then you find out who sold it. No, he's not responsible. Only the end user. Right? The same thing with drugs. I don't see no cocoa fields. No crack fields. Even no crack vial sellers in the hood. That comes from the hood. All this comes from somewhere. You can't stop that. That's not part of it. So all this is done to destroy the nature of people in order to make money. That's the only thing they see us as. And if you come to Islam and you practice Islam, you stop that. And it's simple as that. It may sound just, how is it that? It's that simple.
It don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Sorry?
If it don't make dollars,
To them, whatever makes dollars is the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters, and that's sad. And so we have to start taking responsibility for ourselves if it is that we're actually free. Okay? If you're an actual free person, then behave like it. Okay? Meaning take responsibility for yourself and your own actions and thoughts. And don't let someone else dictate those to you, except that it comes from the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, I will teach you those things that directly from the Quran and Sunnah that you can distinguish for yourself a lot of the falsehoods and a lot of the truths. The purity of Islam is that with a little bit you can do a lot. Look what little we have so far, how many doors is opened up in your mind. Like I said, we've finished the 3 major usuls that you need in those 3 poems. The mentality of the talabul ilm, that's vital. We're not finished with that. We're going to go, after we finish this, we have another set of dealing with the adab of the usulul adab of the talabul ilm. Then we have the 10 first questions, and then we start moving on to the next. But right now, the meat and potatoes is what I just gave you. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Now, if it makes sense to you, then understand what I need you to do. I only need you to do is repeat this 1,000 times if you have to get it in your second nature, to make it part of your long-term memory. One of the ways to do that is read it, take a nap, then read it again when you wake up. Write it out, okay? Leave it alone for a little bit, a day, come back and read it again. It'll tell your mind that I need to remember this. Recite it aloud without reading it, okay? And this will make you do it to somebody else. Recite it to others. When you come Monday, you will have to recite this on your own. I will put you under pressure to do it. I will yell and scream to make you put more pressure, because I want you to be able to recite this from your gut, an unintimidated way. But the only way you'll be ready for that is if you study. And the only reason I'm doing it is not to humiliate anybody, but because we have to be double qualified. We have to be ready. And to be ready, you need these principles. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we need to remember the 3 poems for each three principles.
Yes. You have to remember all 3 poems that I gave you previously.
What's the principle? The 5 plus 2. What is it in Arabic?
Al-Qawa'id al-Ahkam al-Sharia. Al-Ahkam al-Sharia. That's all it is. The ahkam of the Sharia. Okay? Which would mean the rulings of the Sharia. The legal rulings of every act in the world. Amazing, right? 5 things in every act in the world, no matter what deen you follow, is going to be one of these 5. Okay? Everybody follow me?
Yes.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Yes, ma'am.
This doesn't concern you know, today, but someone asked me to ask you, can Muslims have life insurance?
Can Muslims have life insurance? The question is, can Muslims have life insurance? The immediate answer is no. The immediate action is no. That a Muslim should not have life insurance. Does that make sense? Because ta'meen is haram. Wait, even car insurance. But we're forced to have car insurance because if you don't get car insurance, what happens? You cannot drive. So they've made it a condition for you to drive is to have this particular type of insurance. You can take 2 ways about that. You can get the best insurance, or you can just get the minimum insurance. Either way, they both are lawful for you in that regard. Does that make sense? Because sometimes having the minimum insurance isn't the best thing for you. You get my point? Depending on the type of work and how you drive and those types of things like that. Now, when it comes to life insurance, if a Muslim wants to have life insurance, Allah speaks about this in the Quran, فَاتَّقُوا. They say in the Quran, it's فَاتَّقُوا. Whoever's fearing his children after he's dead, then let him fear Allah while he's alive. Okay? What do you want life insurance for? You want life insurance so that your people after you get something, right? To take care of your deceased body. Is that correct? Those are the main things it takes care of. Why can't you take care of that without the life insurance? You can. In pretty much every community in the United States. You can go to the masjid. In fact, when I leave here now, I'm going to go wash a body. Okay? I'm waiting for the ME right now to call me to release a body from Raleigh. Right now. He had no life insurance. You get my point? We're going to pick him up, inshallah ta'ala, and we're going to take care of our brother. At no cost. Who knows paying for it? The brothers in the masjid. We take a what do you call it? A throw-in. Everybody pays back. Maybe it's $20. It costs $2,000 to bury him in Greensboro. I ain't seen one person come out their pocket. What they do, they come out their pocket now. Now, what we used to do in Florida, we used to buy the plot. It's like $1,200. You buy the plot. Okay? I had a big family. We buy a plot. Right there. I have my shroud now. Okay? And my wife has her instructions. What to do. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
You're not promised tomorrow. Act like it. And then you save your money to do that. It's less expensive to do it this way. If people would just, if the Muslims would do things the correct way, we would be much wealthier and much better quality of life. For example, we have this car insurance. right? Why is it haram? Insurance is haram because someone's taking your money and spending your money, investing your money, and you're getting nada, okay? Then you get treated like a punk when you ask for some money when something happens. Like you stole something and the minimum is given to you, not even what you put in. Now an Islamic insurance policy, okay, which your husband is organizing right now, inshallah, may Allah give him tawfiq.
Amen.
You put that money in and they invested, and guess what? You get whatever the investment comes out. If the investment makes $100 and your pure is $1, you get $1. The same old, like organized in that particular. We are mathematicians by nature. Organizing the names, how much you put in. Just imagine in this room how much we're spending on insurance. Just in this room. How much if we had that one every month? How much we could spend and buy a house on that. Rent that house. Make that investment. Do the next month and do the other thing. How much money we would be making? Just with the people in this room. And then when something happens to one of us in the car, we spend the money. You get my point?
Yeah.
And we probably be spending off the profit. Because how many times do people have an accident? I mean, in this room here, when was the last time somebody had an accident?
Some years.
Some couple of years, some of us, right? So, it's stupid, really stupid, to do the things the way the Kafirs do it. How many people bought houses on insurance back in the late 70s and the 80s? 30-year mortgages. They still don't own their homes. Because they came out in the 2000s and said refinance it. And guess what? They did. Because they thought they were going to get a little hit, go to Acapulco, go do something swift and stuff like that, come back. Now they owe automatic again. You in your 80s now, late 70s, you still don't own the home. Welcome to democracy. That's cool. And now that how much pressure is on those people now, unless they had wealth, that they had enough money to pay off that thing, they're going to leave it for their children to pay. Who this generation in the United States is the first generation in history to make less than their parents. And it's getting worse. Have you seen the 18-year-olds? The Chinese call them the strawberry generation because they bruise easily. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, we have to think about the ramifications, the long-term ramifications. Now, is it lawful to do something haram? Sometimes it is. But to the extent that you have to do that haram. Because hardships and harms?
Have to be removed.
Hardships and harms?
Have to be removed.
Okay, relieved of or eased up?
In some way soothed.
Okay, so that hardship, if you had to do that, then that's what you had to do. But only to the extent that you had to do it, makes sense to do it that way. Okay? And this is why you find in the Hanafi fiqh, where they say they allow their people in Hanafi fiqh to buy a home on riba. I don't know if you notice it.
Yeah.
That they do not live in the hood. Okay? Nowhere in the United States. Because of an Islamic principle, like my deen, my mind, my honor, my lineage.
Myself.
So they say my deen would corrupt if I was living in the hood with the lowest basis people in the society. Okay? You get my point?
Yeah.
My life would be dangerous. My child's life, the quality of life. And they're correct.
Yeah.
We struggle with it, but we don't necessarily have to. Look what happens to our children, how many we've lost in the battle. Okay? If that's going to be a lesser of the two evils.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that has to be weighed by the individual. That person has to look at that thing. Things are not as black and white as we think they are. It goes back to the harm and the benefit that's coming to that particular person. And we can't take an extreme view because, we like to. It's the qadr of Allah. Certain things are lawful, then we let the person do the lawful thing. Whatever that happens is between them and Allah. Does that make sense? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Yes?